Greetings to our listeners. I'm Noemi Di Stefano, multimedia journalist here at Shephard Media, and welcome to this space dedicated to the 15th International Defense Industry Fair, IDEF, taking place this week from the 17th to the 20th of August 2021 in Istanbul, Turkey, and brought to you in partnership with our sponsor, Turkish company FNSS. I'm joined by a special guest. He's Sonny Buttersworth, a senior analyst for the land domain of Shepherd Defense Insight. Sonny, a warm welcome and thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me, Noemi.
I'm looking forward to the conversation. So we're going to talk, of course, about Turkey military procurement. And just before we look at the modernization that the Turkey military forces are currently undergoing a bit more in detail, I just wanted to mention some of the key data emerging by the latest report issued by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, CIPRI, which reports Turkey's military expenditure decreased by 5% in 2020 to 17.7 billion US dollars compared to the previous year, where the budget was over 20 billion US dollars. The same report also mentions a 59% fall in arms imports between 2011 and 2015, and then between 2016 and 2020, mentioning that the US halting deliveries of F-35's combat aircraft in 2019 is the main reason for this fall. Now, we're going to look at this F-35's matter in a separate video, but it's worth mentioning that also the other reason for the imports falling is the increasing domestic production of major arms to reduce its reliance on imports. And we're going to look at how important is the indigenous market for Turkey in a minute as part of its modernization. But first, Sonny, I just wanted to ask you, looking at the modernization of the Turkish armed forces, can you give us a general overview of the current status of the Turkey defense industry and what platforms need to undergo upgrades?
Sure. So Turkey has a burgeoning armored vehicle industry at the moment. There are really several manufacturers that can offer quite a wide range of products. So this ranges from everything from 4x4 mine-protected vehicles, where Turkey has been historically quite prolific, now going towards 8x8 armored vehicles, lighter tracked vehicles, and even vehicles that are more specialized, such as amphibious assault vehicles. So we have FNSS developing the Zaha platform. Turkey has also got quite a wide range of capabilities in terms of subsystems and vehicle components. So it can develop and market remote weapon stations, sensors, electronic warfare equipment, and even active protection systems too. And all of these systems are being developed primarily as a result of Turkish operational requirements and a need to replace legacy older platforms that were procured from foreign manufacturers. So this trend that you highlight, where they're procuring from their domestic industry, is really a big development. And we're seeing that being extended further into the future. So Turkey wants to develop and produce its own main battle tank now as well under the LTA program. So there's it's very ambitious, and Turkey's industry.
And in your piece, you focus on the procurement of new armored vehicles and look at the market forecast for the years 2021, 2029. But apart beyond the procurement, is also Turkey investing in upgrades and modernization of its existing fleet.
That's right. So we focus on the market for new platforms, because, of course, as I mentioned, that's quite interesting in terms you can see the development of different systems. But Turkey is also using that subsystem integration expertise I mentioned earlier to upgrade its in-service platforms as well and extend their service life for several more years. I think this is particularly noticeable in the tracked segment, where Turkey is still mature in its new products in the area. So a good example is 133 of its ACV-15 APCs are being upgraded with an unmanned turret, additional armor, new sensors to make them much more viable in a competitive or in a contemporary battlefield. They're also upgrading their Leopard 2A4s with additional armor package, and this could be one to watch in the future as well, because if the Altay program continues to struggle, they may well have to rely on their Leopards for longer than they perhaps anticipated and would have liked. The same with their M60s as well; those are also being upgraded. So plenty going on in the upgrade market too.
What about unmanned ground vehicles for frontline use and logistic supports? Is Turkey investing on those type of platforms?
Absolutely. So, really, like all militaries that can afford to, Turkey is carrying out many experiments with its UGVs, and this ranges from all different kinds of roles that militaries have thought they could be useful for. So, logistical support, actual combat, support and demining, and explosive ordnance disposal. So there's quite a few programs in the mix. So just recently, Havelsan announced that it will start field trials with Barkan UGV. There have also been even reports on making the Kirpi-2 MRAP autonomous, so it can be operated from a distance in explosive ordnance disposal roles. But it's also, again, important to note that the UGV market globally and in Turkey is kind of in quite an early stage at the moment. So militaries are still focusing on developing their ConOps. How are these going to be used? How are they going to integrate with existing forces? So procurement will probably take quite a few years to get to the mass production levels where we see large numbers of these systems being inducted. At the moment, the focus is on experiments and trials to see what works and how best to use them.
Okay, and I just wanted to ask, there is a huge focus in this modernization of stopping imports of spare parts from and relying on international partners. So, what is the impact that this modernization is having on the local manufacturing businesses? Can Turkey really afford to work on its own?
So Turkey's made many steps and is getting closer to be able to do that. As you mentioned, the parts and components issue is particularly important because when we're talking about the manufacture of armed vehicles, we're not really just talking about the platform itself, but everything that goes into it. So if you look at a program like the Altay, it has a remote weapons station and active protection system from Aselsan, it has a main gun from MKEK, it has an armor from Roketsan, it has other components from Havelsan. So this has a very great impact on many of the different Turkish suppliers, not just BMC, which is the prime manufacturer. Um, Now, the effort to make Turkey more self-sufficient has benefited its local industry because it means that it's sparing development in new directions. So the Altay program has suffered, in particular, from not being able to secure a power pack from the German MTU companies. The German government has blocked the export license. So Turkey is developing its own 1,500 horsepower diesel engine under the Batu program. They're hoping that will sort of be ready for about 2024. And this will not only mean that Turkey is more self-sufficient when it comes to its domestic procurement, but it will also make it easier for it to export its own platforms as well, because it won't have to rely on other governments to grant these export approvals. And we've seen, if we look at the air domain with the T129 attack helicopter, that if another government blocks the import or the export of engines, then that can have a catastrophic effect on Turkish attempts to export their products. So this this need to substitute foreign components and source as much from Turkish industry is really having quite a positive effect on their industrial base and their level of expertise across the whole spectrum of armored vehicle manufacturing.
And since you mentioned exports, I just wanted to ask if we look at the potential of Turkish armored vehicles or even at other platforms, for example, used by the armed forces, is there a market for these indigenous platforms outside Turkey itself?
Absolutely. Turkey has already established quite a firm foothold in the export market, particularly with its light armored vehicles and mine resistant and protected vehicles. These are really attractive for countries who want capable platforms at a competitive price and perhaps without as many political strings attached as some other governments might insist upon. Um, Turkey also has the ability to supply these vehicles in large volumes relatively quickly as well. So again, that makes it quite an attractive partner. And there are more and more countries looking to procure Turkish platforms going forwards, yes.
But if we focus on where geographically these countries are, I was just wondering, considering that many EU countries and also many NATO allies have put arms embargoes on Turkish arms exports, then where is where is the export market for Turkey then from a geography point of view?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think where Turkey seeks to sell its armored vehicles is closely aligned, first of all, to where the Turkish government wants to cement its regional influence and have more of a geopolitical role. I think it's also where there are countries that either can't or don't want to procure from countries like the US or Western Europe, where there might be higher prices or uh, more conditions attached to sales. And so I think where Turkey is strongest at the moment is in the Middle East and Africa. It has also secured some quite large sales in Asia as well. And quite recently, it secured its first export sale to a NATO European country when it's agreed to sell armored vehicles to Hungary too. So Turkey, I think, is expanding its footprint in the export market. I know that FNSS is offering its PARS 3 8x8 to a Peruvian program in so that's in South America, of course. There are also indications this year that Morocco will look to purchase the Ada Yaltsin 4x4 mine protected vehicle too. Chad is another country that's recently been seen to use that type. So yeah, Turkey is strongest, I think, in the Middle East and North Africa, but it's looking to sell to more and more regions. And I think, again, as it can develop more of its own products, if it doesn't have to rely on foreign components, then it will be able to secure more and more sales going forwards too.
Thank you, Sonny. Thank you very much for painting this broad picture and giving all this information. Um, for our listeners, if you like this video, make sure to check out our other IDEF videos and news stories hosted on our dedicated IDEF 2021 show site. And until next time, for me and Sonny, thanks for watching.